Welcome back to the program. Okay, as advertised, let's go to line number 8. Say good morning to the current PC member for Gander and a gentleman who is going to be running for the Conservatives in the federal riding of Central Notre Dame, something like that. Coast of Islands. Anyway, let's see if we get the exact name from Kevin O'Brien. Good morning, Kevin. You're on the air.
Coastal Bay, Central Notre Dame, Paddy.
Yeah, it's hard to get used to some of the new names out there.
Absolutely, and I thank you for having me this morning. If I could first start out, Paddy, because I haven't had a chance, since the spring, to give a great thanks to the people of Appleton, Benton, Gander and Glenwood in regards to how they've supported me and believed in me in regards to being their MHA. I think we've accomplished a lot over the last, 10 years, 12 years, as I've been the MHA and a minister 10 years. I've partnered with not only the councils in the 3 communities in the LSD out in Benton, but also with community groups such as, the golf club and the, Nordic Ski Club and the curling club and the Legion with the Cenotaph Committee and also with Rotary and Cows Pond. So it's been a great run. We've accomplished a lot in that, but sincerely, it's been an honour to be the MHA for Gander, the district of Gander, and as well, it's been a great run in regards to what we've accomplished. So I thank all the people out there that are listening, and hopefully I can keep that confidence and get elected in the upcoming federal election.
When are you stepping down as the provincial member? Or has that happened?
Soon. Matter of fact, to be quite honest with you, I consider myself as being stepped down now, as once I attained a nomination yesterday when I was informed about 5:30 or so, but I'll go into St. John's now on Monday and just clue everything up. I think that we should step down because you can't be wearing 2 hats, to be quite honest with you. I've moved on to a new challenge, and I aim to, complete that challenge and be successful in that challenge. So I can't be concentrating and doing an MHA's work and then do as well, in regards to the campaign going forward. So I will be stepping down. I'm quite sure that the Premier will assign the duties of the district to an adjacent MHA, whoever that may be, and I'm quite sure they'll do a great job, and they'll consult with me in regards to the various issues and the various projects that we have ongoing, such as the new school for Gander 4 to 6 school, which went to tender a couple of days ago.
It's an interesting set of circumstances now, especially when you add the Chess Crosby story. We'll get to that in a minute. But, and this is a story I know you're well aware of and people are speaking about, is several years ago when talking to Bill Rowe right here on VOCM when he was hosting Backtalk, your comments were quite clear regarding the Prime Minister. He said, Stephen Harper has no integrity. He makes promises and breaks promises. If he's that person, why would you want to run for a man who you hold in that regard?
Well, let me address this, and let's start from the beginning. When I got elected in 2003, I witnessed prior to 2003 the removal of the weather office here in Gander. And, Prime Minister Harper, when he took government in 2006, it was one of the first things that he did, was come down to Gander and reinstate the weather office in Gander. There was no place for the provincial government in regards to that, but Stephen Harper had me on the stage as well as the Premier of the province, even though there was no, policy piece for the province nor any kind of financial commitment in that. But he did that, and he had me up on stage with him in regards to that reinstatement. And that happened back in 2007, I think. But anyways, it happened in a different chapter of my life when I was a part of a different team, when I was fighting for something I believed in, for Newfoundland and Labrador, which I'll always believe in, and I'll always be fighting for Newfoundland and Labrador. I'll be fighting for my district, and I'll be fighting for the people.
The issue boils down further than promises broken and, doing 180s and reinstating weather offices, what have you. It's the one comment that would stand out to me. It's not the promise issue, because unfortunately people look at politics and campaigns as promises made just to be broken. But it's the integrity bit, And so how all of a sudden is the Prime Minister a man of integrity if he wasn't at the time you made those comments?
Get to that point, Paddy, and, I've watched the Prime Minister since 2007. I watched how he steered, along with his cabinet, along with his government, this country through an economic recession probably as bad could have been as bad as 1929. I remember making comments in regards to the show that you've attributed it all to our banking regulations, but that's not true. It was a contributing factor, but there was many factors. I remember when the Prime Minister came out with the action plan, putting Canadians to work, which was another factor. They kept our country and led the G8, the G7, formerly the G8, as the leader in the world in regards to addressing.
But what does that have to do with man's integrity?
We're seeing Greece right now in a very difficult situation, and the US has gone through, a downturn. And matter of fact, you can still buy houses down there today, a $300,000 house for just a little over $100,000. That didn't happen. I gained a lot of respect in that regard, too, as well, in regards to the safety Canadians and what he did for us there. And don't forget, Stephen Harper has not let Newfoundland and Labrador down entirely. There might be issues there that you might want to zero in on, but the bottom line of it is he gave us the loan guarantee that saved us billions of dollars. And I was a part of that government and quite proud, when we were able to announce that, in regards to Muskrat Falls. So, you turn a corner in your life. I spent a lot of time down in Cuba, and now I see the United States and Cuba open up respective embassies in their countries, and they turn the corner. I know that I can work with the government. I've worked with...
But the players involved in the Cuba-American issue were long dead. Well, I mean, one of them is still hanging on by a string. But just let me ask you a question. Do you consider Stephen Harper a friend of Newfoundland and Labrador? A man that not only you're willing to run and stand behind his record, whether it be in our province, across the country, or internationally, he's a man you respect now and has integrity, you're saying, and he's a friend of the province. Is that how you're characterizing the Prime Minister?
Listen, Paddy, you're trying to...
No, I'm not. These are your words, though, Kevin. These are not mine.
Let me speak here now. And we can have an argument. That's no
I'm
issue.
not trying to.
I'm good with that. But in the meantime, Stephen Harper tries to do the best that he can possibly do for Canada. We tried as a government since 2003 to do the best we can for our province. And when you're a part of a team, you fight with the team. No differently than a hockey team. Wayne Gretzky was a part of the Edmonton Oilers, won some Stanley Cups and played hard. But he played equally as hard, for the Los Angeles team. And too as well, when you're a part of a team, you do that. When you turn your corners and you gain respect. Just because you had a difference of opinion and called each other whatever you called each other, don't mean to say that you got to be arch enemies for life. I'm positively sure, Paddy, knowing you, that you have had your differences with people, regardless of how small it was or how big it was. But you gained respect for them after the fact, and then you became friends, and then you probably became bosom friends. God only knows. Things change. And as I said, that the issues change and you turn a corner in your life, I believe that I have the knowledge and I have the experience to represent Newfoundland and Labrador and the district that I'm running for quite strongly in Ottawa. And I'll represent the people at that table as strongly as I have at the provincial table. And, and I can work. And I was going to mention a couple of names in regards to Minister Jason Kenney. I've worked with him. I've made some great changes along with himself in regards to the PMP, and also that's the provincial nominee program.
And now he's gone.
Yeah, and I got the numbers up. And, we had an increase over a decade that nobody else has ever got an increase in a decade.
Let me ask you a couple of specific questions about different portfolios which are going to be interesting to tackle as a provincial member of Parliament. Is if you tell me your number one concern where you think that we have not had our just rewards or appropriate policy delivered from Ottawa that affects this province, you give me your number one priority that you say you're going to fight for, and then I have a couple of questions on some specific portfolios. I'm curious on your take. So number one, what issue do you think you're going to take up there to fight for, and what are you trying to achieve?
Well, there's a number of issues. I can't drill it down to just one issue because that's not fair to the other issues.
Okay, well then let me start for you. How about the fishery?
I've spoken to the federal government, over the last number of months in regards to the Manolas L issue of a Twilling Gate and Fogo, a very important issue, and we might see some movement on that. And you'd have to know and have experience on how to move the issues internally, not only externally, on your program. I've talked to him about CETA, which is very important to the future of our fishery. You know, I've proven that I listen and listen well. You know, I remember when I became the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and, you know, I had municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador, come in through the door and advocate for a new fiscal arrangement, which had happened prior to us taking government. It started back at the president of that day and the executive of that day. But I was the minister that championed it through government. So I'll be championing many issues, and I'll be listening to not only the people of the fishing industry, but also the business industry, and also right across Newfoundland and Labrador, and also the district that I would represent in regards to the issues that are concerning to them. So I'm not going to drill it down to just one.
I can help. I'll lead then, and you tell me what you think. When it comes to CETA, it's an interesting one because a government that you are a member of, they say that once again that the Prime Minister can't be trusted. He's a liar. That's some of the words coming from government members when it comes to the creation of that $400 million fund. Some 280 were due from Ottawa, as based on what your government told us was the deal they had in place. Your comments, sir, about the lack of holding up their end of the bargain as per your PC government has put forward very, very clearly that they've said the Prime Minister lied to us directly on the creation of that fund. Your comments?
CETA is important to Newfoundland and Labrador. You know, both sides of it, to be quite honest with you, in regards to, you know, job creation going forward or whatnot. And people have different opinions in regards to CETA, you know, depending on which side of the table you're sitting at. But in the meantime, I firmly believe that there's a deal to be had in CETA. It can be structured in a certain way, which I've expressed both, you know, to the Premier and to the ministers and here in Newfoundland and Labrador and also in Ottawa. You know, and I've been working towards a possible, you know, solution to that deal. Just because, and the federal government has never said that deal is dead totally. You know,
well, they said it's dead based on the 5 pillars put forward by the province. Very clear on that front.
We have a difference of opinion in regards to how that would roll out. So, you know, you know, what I firmly believe, that we need somebody at that table. We can't have everybody in opposition in a country. You know, I value and really value the value that's contained in an opposition. But you can't have everybody in the opposition when you're a part of a country. You have to have somebody from your province and that party that is governing Canada as a part of that table. And I aim to do that. I've proven myself over the last 10 years. You know, past Premier Marshall referred to me as the go-to minister. If you want to get it done, go to O'Brien. He'd said that. And I appreciate it very, very much because I do work hard. So, you know, this is going to be a challenge going forward. You know, I put aside my differences with Prime Minister Harper. I've watched him closely over the last several years. I like what he's doing in regards to the safety of Canadians, too, as well, and how he supported our military, which is very important to me. You know, both my parents were war veterans. I am 16 years in the Canadian Rangers, company commander here in Gander for a number of years. You know, so that's very important to me. So I bring a lot to that table.
A couple of the issues
like I just said, Paddy, I will represent that table as strongly as I have in this province.
A couple of the big issues that you're bringing forward, I think, are critically important. You speak to the military, but a lot of critics of the Conservative government's approach to the military is that they've left the military to rust, which is a big problem. You speak about the security of Canadians. One of the more polarizing pieces of legislation that's gone through the House of Commons is, of course, the anti-terror legislation, Bill C-51. It's hurt the Liberals on the federal polls, I would suggest. It's given the NDP a boost because they stood opposed to it, as opposed to capitulate to what many people criticize as draconian legislation. You're a full supporter of Bill C-51, including the more notorious things like 7 days detained without warrant or due process. Some of those things, you're on side with that legislation, sir?
Well, I am. You know, listen, I am in support of the safety of Canadians. And any Canadian right across Canada, if they don't believe that we are not vulnerable, they're living a dream. To be quite honest with you, we've seen it time and time again. We have to lead. We have to make the hard decisions in regards to protecting our citizens, not only in Newfoundland and Labrador, but right across Canada. I believe in it. I believe in it strongly. You know, I had my great uncle die on the fields of Europe, in Beaumont Hamel. And I was there, and I know what it means, and I feel it in my heart and my soul. So we have to protect Canadians, and you'll have differences of opinions all the time in regards to legislation. I've seen it over the last 10 years. I brought through many changes to legislation when I was the Minister of Government Services, and there's two sides to everything. But you have to be able to make strong decisions. The Prime Minister had made a strong decision for Canada and the protection of Canadians. And I believe that we have to protect Canadians because...
Do you think any of it goes too far?
I guarantee you, Paddy, you'll be the first one. You'll be the first one opening up your shores. Something dramatic happened in Canada today, and we didn't have the proper process in place in order to, apprehend or stop that process. You'll be the first one on,
But the difference would be then, Kevin, let me say respectfully, the difference will be if I see something that I don't like, I have no hesitation bringing it up, whether it be to criticise the Prime Minister or Premier Davis or Premier Dunderdale or Premier Marsh or anybody else. But how do you fight that balancing act yourself? Because you've said in the just I'll finish the question and then I'll let you go ahead, sir. You say you're going to fight on behalf of the province. You'll fight for your constituents. But how are you going to do that in how Harper has governed his members of caucus? There's been a very tight leash held to these people, access to microphones and cameras. So how do you balance that while not besmirching the Prime Minister and all the while saying you're fighting for your province?
I have served under 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, I think, premiers. And I have fought at that table for what I've believed in. And there's a difference, Paddy, which you have to get in your mind. There's a difference of fighting internally as you fight externally.
I understand that.
There's a way of doing it. And I have been successful. And my record is proven. And I just only referenced one, and that is the new fiscal arrangement with municipalities. And you can phone MA without me championing that within government, and it was daunting, to be quite honest with you, because it was a big undertaking. You have to have, as you said, with your previous caller, you have to have political courage to do that. And I have political courage, and I've proven it. So now if the people of the province and the people of this district want me as their representative in Ottawa, to bring that expertise to the table, well, I'm going to give them the chance. The only thing that can happen, come October the 19th is a yay or a nay. And, and I'll tell the people, in this district that I will represent them well. I can work with Stephen Harper. I can work with Jason Kenney. I can work with Chris Alexander. I can work with Minister LaBelle, and on and so forth. Because I've done it in the past. I've had a great reputation built up with all my FPT meetings, what I brought to the table and worked with ministers and changed things. And to be quite honest with you, I'll take great credit in regards to the changes in the apprentice program.
I think that program, I think those changes were meaningful, and you and I have had a conversation about that. Last question, because they're waving me out of here because of the time on the clock. Your comments, and I don't think there's an opportunity to have no comment on this one. The party that you're choosing to run for federally, of course, much maligned around here. The Prime Minister's numbers of support and support for CPC is really dismal in this province. And there's also a party that saw fit to reject a candidate. All they offered for a reason was he's not our type of guy, and that, of course, is Jess Crosbie. Your comment on rejecting candidates like that, and do you think we deserve a direct answer from the Conservative Party of Canada as to the specifics of why Mr. Crosbie was rejected, as opposed to the vagaries of he's not our kind of guy? What do you think of running for a party that's done that to Mr. Crosbie?
I can't comment on somebody else's process. I've seen, all the national parties reject candidates, Liberal, NDP, whatever it may be, over the years for various reasons, and I wouldn't be able to comment on that.
Do you think we deserve an answer with some specifics?
Betty, I don't know. I absolutely don't know. All I do know is that it is a rigorous process. The nomination papers are over 50-odd pages long. The guidelines on the papers themselves is 30-odd pages long. I did an interview which was probably about an hour and a half, maybe a little longer, and it was rigorous. It was quite pointed, and people not only asked the questions, but there were people listening and taking notes. So I went through that process. And matter of fact, quite surprised after being, in government for 12 years and 10 years as a cabinet minister. It actually surprised me that I had to go through it. To be quite honest with you, I thought, well, I'm a cabinet minister, so I got a proven record, so leave me alone.
Do you think we deserve an answer from the party?
Right?
Do you just go yes or no? Do you think we deserve an answer, specifics as to why Mr. Crosbie was rejected? Because that's a process you were involved in. If you were rejected, do you think they would owe you an honest answer and consequently us? Because we're the electorate. All the highfalutin politicians and their own party caucus be damned. Do you think we deserve a direct answer from the CPC?
That's a question that you should give Ches Crosby. I'm concerned about my own process.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be able to answer that because, yes, absolutely, if they were to reject me today, I would ask why. But then I have I guess it's up to me. It's up to me whether I would publicise that or no. Because, like it or lump it, I might be a public figure, but I'm also a private figure. I'm a father. I am a person. I got feelings. No differently than you. I cry, I laugh, and I'm somber and I'm crooked. At times, and that's it. I'm a human being. So for me to make a comment on Ches Crosby or whatever process might gone through, listen, there's no one on this earth in this province had more respect for the Crosby family and John Crosby in particular in regards to what he's done for Newfoundland and Labrador and dedicated his whole life to Newfoundland and Labrador. But I'm not about to make a comment in regards to, a Ches or whoever it may be.
I was just more wondering, do you think the party owes us an explanation?
I'm not a party person. I'm not a part of that committee.
But you're going to have on your sign Kevin O'Brien, Conservative.
I am a nominated candidate, but I'm not a part of that party process. And so for me to make a judgment call in regards to whatever reason they rejected Ches's nomination is unfair for me. It's unfair for you to ask me, be quite honest with you.
It's unfair for me to ask you what you think a party... Just one second, though, Kevin.
If you were to phone me up today and say, Kevin, why did they reject you? Well, that's fair. I'm not going to comment on something.
No, I didn't ask why they rejected him. I'm asking you, do you think it's fair that they give us an explanation?
I don't know the reasons why they did.
But that's what I'm asking you. Do you think it's realistic for this?
And that's
so it's not unfair. It's actually absolutely spot on point. You want to be a Conservative candidate, consequently a Conservative member of the Parliament, and so we will ask Conservatives, do they think it's fair how the Conservatives have handled themselves? It's not unfair at all. I didn't ask you to comment on Mr. Crosby himself personally and or the reasons, because the reasons are unknown.
There's a process that you go through. And, the premiers here in Newfoundland and Labrador in the past have refused to sign nomination papers.
Yeah.
We've done it. And, and the various parties have done it. And for you to ask me is it fair or unfair without having the background to it.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you, do you think they should explain to us what happened? That's all, not whether or not it's fair.
Well, ask Ches.
I will ask Ches, but considering I had a Conservative candidate on the line.
It is his own private life. Like I said to you, he's a very accomplished lawyer, proven, in not only in St. John's, but Newfoundland and Labrador and nationally, and that kind of stuff. But that's a part of his private life. And I'm not going to comment on it and put him in a spot or put somebody else in a spot, that you want to hear.
You may have misunderstood the question. I wasn't asking about Ches. I was asking about the party.
It's up to you to dig for it.
Oh, don't worry.
To implore the party to do something that Ches don't want him to do. So that's up to him.
I'll ask the next wave of Conservative candidates, including Mr. Crosby, when he returns from his holidays. I appreciate your time as usual. We generally have a very frank conversation, and I know you're up for that much of it. I wish you good luck on the campaign trail.
And I thank you, Paddy, and I'll be calling back and hope this difference of opinion don't tarnish our relationship.
Well, it never does, because this is not personal.
I'll have a chat with you, and I'd love to have a talk to you when I run into you.
This is not personal. Never was, Kevin, as we've known. There's been to and fro's between me and various politicians. It's not about being buddies. It's about doing what we can to get the information out there. And we will always have the same relationship we've always had. And that's the way I operate, and I think that's the way you do as well.
Absolutely. In this case here, I'm not going to implore the party to divulge something that is something for Ches to determine if it's going to be divulged or not. So that's where I stand on that. I don't think it would be fair if I were rejected and Ches were nominated that he'd do the same for me.
I'll turn to someone, if we can get some names on that nomination or selection committee, we'll be happy to do that. Appreciate your time this morning, Kevin. Good luck.
Thank you, man. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Kevin O'Brien is the PC member for Gander. He's going to be the candidate out in Costa Bay, Central Notre Dame, I believe is the name of that federal riding. You want to pass a comment, you can do it on Twitter or VOCM Open Line. You can send us an email, openline@vocm.com. And it's important to note, as you know very well as listeners to the program, I've not massaging any of this stuff. And when and if I get dirty looks when I run into people who have been the subject of focus here, well, that's too bad. Because it's not personal with me, with them, or anybody else, including you. We're trying to get to the bottom of stuff so we can make legitimate, informed decisions, and that's just the way it goes, big boys, big girls, and that's how the game is going to have to be played if we're ever going to try to diagnose who is running, why, what they stand for, and that's just the way it works. It's certainly the way it works here on VOCM.